Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Today we are from group 3, which consists of Azzahra, Arief, Charlotte, Nadya, and myself, Latif. Today we are going to explain about textual metafunction. Since we have learned about metafunction in general and about interpersonal metafunction and etc. in the previous meetings, we're going to go right on ahead to the definition of textual metafunction, which will be explained by Nadya.
Definition of textual metafunction. The textual metafunction of language is an interpretation of language in its function as message. According to Halliday, an edition of Matheson and Halliday in 1997 state that the textual metafunction is concerned with the creation of text with the presentation of ideational and interpersonal meanings as information that can be shared by speaker and listener in the text unfolding in the context. One of the major textual systems is theme, the resource for setting up a local context for a clause by selecting a local point of departure in the flow of information. So this textual metafunction is language that is used to structure text and the highlight or the foreground aspect of what we want to say. Theme. In textual metafunctions, clauses are analyzed into the theme and rhyme systems. According to Halliday in 1985, theme is given information serving as the point of departure of a message. The definition of theme is also reintroduced by Halliday in 1994. The theme is the element which serves as the point of departure of the message. The theme is subject of the clause because they usually depart from a familiar place. Themes usually contain familiar or given information that is mentioned somewhere in the text or is familiar from the context. Theme identification is based on the sequence. Theme is the element that takes precedence in the clause. So the theme is the first element in the clause that takes part in transitivity. The identification of theme is based on order. This is the example of the theme. As you can see, the theme has been underlined, which is the element which comes first in the clause. The next is rhyme. The definition of the rhyme is the part of the clause in which of the theme is developed. Since we typically depart from the familiar to head towards the unfamiliar, the rhyme typically contains unfamiliar or new information. The identification criteria for the rhyme are simple. Everything that is not the theme is the rhyme. Thus, once you have identified the theme in the clause, you have also identified the rhyme, which is just everything else. The rhyme is the example analyzed above, includes all the non-underlined constituent of the clause. The boundary of theme, types of themes. But in Switzerland, they give you a cognac. Here they give you tea and biscuits. This is the indication of theme. They may lead you to X, Y. For example, the boundary is not but, since that can be recognized as the one constituent. Why they not a part of the theme? These questions about the boundary between theme and rhyme could be answered in the system types of themes. Reflecting the three-dimensional metafunctional structure of the clause, we can identify three different types of elements of clause structure that can get to be in theme. The first one is topical or experiential elements. Then the second is interpersonal element, and then the last is textual elements. We will briefly examine each type of theme and explain the criteria for determining the theme and rhyme boundary.
The next topic is theme. Types of themes. The first one is topical themes. Topical theme is the element which refers to a participant, a circumstance, or the process of the clause. Topical themes are divided into two subtypes, simple and multiple. Simple themes always have a topical element, while multiple themes may have the interpersonal and textual theme in addition to topical themes. For example, in Greece, they give you nothing. In Greece can be identified as circumstance location, they actor, give material, you beneficiary, and nothing can be identified as goal. In Greece, showing topical theme and the rest of the sentence is rhyme. We can say that when an element of the clause to which a transitivity function can be assigned occurs in the first position in clause. So if we have finished identifying the clause, for example actor, center, goal, etc., then each clause contains only one topical theme. The next one is interpersonal themes. Interpersonal themes refers to an item that comes before the rhymes, which indicates the relation between participant in the text or the position or point of view that is being taken in the clause. So when the clause is analyzed, we can identify it using a modal adjuncts like mood, vocative, and voluntary. When we have identified it using the mood label, then it is called interpersonal theme. For example, do you want some more soup, Diana? Do can be identified as finite, you subject, one predicator, some more soup complement, and Diana can be identified as vocative. So, do identify as interpersonal theme, meanwhile you can be identified as a topical theme and the rest of the sentence is rhyme. So any clause that has interpersonal theme should have a topical theme behind it, then continue with rhyme. The last one is textual themes. The third clause constituent that can occur in thematic exposition is the category of textual elements. These are elements which do not express any interpersonal or experiential meaning, but which are doing important cohesive work in relating the clause to its context. The two main types of textual element which can get to be theme are continuity adjuncts and conjunctive adjuncts. The first one is continuity adjuncts. Continuity adjuncts are words which are used in spoken dialogue to indicate the speaker's contribution is somehow related to, continuous with, what a previous speaker has said in earlier turn. The commonest continuity items are oh well, yeah, etc. and no are also continuity items when these are not used as tense for clause ellipses, but as the first item in clause. For example, oh, they give you cup of tea. Oh can be identified as continuity adjuncts. They subject, give predicator, you complement, cup of tea is also complement. The word "oh" is continuing conversation, so the word "oh" is identified as continuity adjuncts. The second one is conjunctive adjuncts as themes. Cohesive conjunction are elements which serve to link sentences together. They were described as conjunctive adjuncts in our mood analysis of the clause. Tactic conjunction, which are used to link clause together with a clause complex will necessarily occur in first position in the clause, and but, whereas cohesive conjunction, which link sentence to other sentence, for example, however, therefore, may occur in other position. Both kind of conjunction are described as textual theme when they occur before the first topical theme in clause. So we can say that conjunctive adjuncts is conjunction theme. For example, however, so, and etc. So let's take a look for the example. And he proposes marriage, and can be identified as conjunctive adjunct. He subject, proposes predicator, and married can be identified as complement. The words and are the conjunction of the sentence, so it can be identified that the words and are conjunctive adjuncts. Meanwhile, the word he is identified as a topical theme and the rest of the sentence is rhyme. So we can see in each clause there must be a topical theme in it. Then we can identify the rest of the sentence after that.
So we've just learned about the three types of themes: textual, topical, and interpersonal. Now we move on to multiple themes. As it says on the presentation, while it is possible for a clause to realize only one thematic element, in which case it must be a topical theme, it is far more common for clauses to contain a sequence of themes, with often several textual and or interpersonal themes occurring before the obligatory topical theme. So every clause needs to have a topical theme. They must always contain a topical theme. But sometimes, more often than not, there are always other themes that follows before the topical theme, such as in this example. On the clause no, well, I mean they don't know, there are three textual themes that exist before the topical theme. And after you reach the topical theme, the rest of it must be a rime. This condition of multiple themes relates to a consideration of how much choice a writer or speaker has in deciding on what to make a theme, which in turn relates to the notion of the thematic potential of a clause. Thematic analysis is relatively straightforward. Simply take each clause in the text and assign a label of interpersonal, textual, or topical to the elements at the beginning. If the first element is a topical theme, a topical element, you call that a theme, and all the rest of the clause are a rime. If other elements, such as interpersonal or textual, like on the example, come before the topical element, you include them in the theme up to the end of the first topical element. Look at this example where we found that there are two textual themes before the topical theme. So that means the two textual themes, well and at least, belongs to the theme section. And after we reach the topical theme, the rest belongs to the rime. Remember that theme analysis is like mood, in that there are two layers of analysis to write: the level of topical, textual, or interpersonal, and the second level of theme versus rime, just like in the example above. Now we move on to the relation between theme and mood, analyzing theme in different mood classes. First, we have the declaratives. Analyzing theme in declarative clauses is straightforward. Simply analyze the constituents to the point where one topical theme is recognized, and then label the remainder of the clause as a rime. For example, in this one, you probably haven't got much more than egg. We can already see that the first constituent you is already a topical theme. So that means everything else after you counts as the rime. Number 2 is elliptical declaratives. Theme analysis of elliptical declaratives depends on determining which constituent have been ellipsed. Thus, it is necessary to fill out the ellipse constituents in your mind only. There is no need to write them. And then consider what thematic analysis of the non-elliptical clause would have been. To fill out ellipses, you will of course have to refer to the context of the clause. For example, in this elliptical declarative, just a touch. So the clause is just a touch, but you need to relate to the context and then create in your mind a table like this. If the elliptical declarative is just a touch, and then you refer to the context, it becomes like this: I'll have just a touch of soup. And then you can analyze it as usual. We can see that the I is a topical theme, so that means the rest of it is a rime. So if we go back to the ellipse version, just a touch, we can see that just a touch belongs to the rime, not the theme. This is a special case in where there is no topical theme realized because it has been ellipsed. So just a touch, this just a touch is a rime, and there are no themes because it has been ellipsed. You will only get the theme if you were to unellip it, like you make it normal. Number 3 is a yes-no interrogative. The analysis of polar interrogative is pretty straightforward, with the finite, modalized or not, appearing before the subject and functioning as interpersonal theme. So the finite appears before the subject. For example, can appears before I. This is the finite, this is the subject. That means the can is interpersonal, and then the I is topical, and then the rest is rem. So this is how you analyze if the clause were a yes-no interrogatives. Number 4 is WH interrogative. In the mood analysis of the clause, WH elements were seen to connect with different constituents, subject, complement, or adjunct circumstantial. As all this conflation involve a participant which plays a transitivity role. WH elements which initiate questions will function as topical themes. For example, in this, the clause is, when did he give her the bomb? So in this, we can see that the when acts as first a WH or adjunct circumstantial, a residue, and also a circumstance location, and then it also acts as a topical theme. That means the rest of the clause acts as a rem. The theme is the when, and then the rest is the rem. You can also see an analysis of mood and transitivity like the previous material that we have studied before. So it relates to the other materials, mood and transitivity. 5. Elliptical interrogatives. As with WH interrogative, in elliptical WH interrogative, the WH element will always be a topical theme. This is because the WH element, which must always occur in the first position, is always fused with a clause constituent which plays a transitivity role. You can test this by filling out the ellipses as we did like previously in the elliptical declarative above. For example, when someone says why, that's an elliptical interrogative because you wouldn't understand this without understanding the context. So if you understand the context and fill out the ellipsis, like what would it be like if it was not like if it was not erased, it would be like this. Why was she a bit dumb? So just like before, the why is a WH and then adjunct circumstantial. That means it is a topical theme. Then the rest are rem. So the y is an elliptical interrogative which has been erased. The other part has been erased, and in this case, it acts as a theme because it is on the first one. Number 6 is imperatives. With imperatives, the mood demands that often subject and finite elements do not appear in the clause, which often begins with the predicator. The predicator is labeled for transitivity, function of process, and should therefore be treated as topical theme. So when you analyze an imperative, you analyze it with transitivity. Pass me the bowl, Simon. So the pass is a material process, and material process counts as topical theme. That means pass is a theme, and then the rest, me, the bowls, and Simon are the reams. 7. Minor clause. As minor clauses carry neither transitivity nor mood labels, we do not consider that they have a thematic structure. They can be therefore left unanalyzed for theme. So when you encounter a minor clause, for example, oh good, or maybe thanks a lot, those does not have transitivity or mood labels. Thus, they also do not have any thematic labels. Number 8, theme in exclamative clauses. With non-elliptical exclamative full version, the WH element will always be a topical theme, as is demonstrated by analyzing it for transitivity. For example, what a delicious soup this is, Mark. So here, the WH or the complementary is a what a delicious soup. It's also a residue, attribute, and topical theme. That means the rest of the exclamative clause counts as a rime. But what about exclamative clause, elliptical exclamative clauses? The WH element should again be treated as topical theme on the basis that it would occupy the thematic position in the non-elliptical version. For example, how fantastic. This is an elliptical exclamative because you need to understand the context of the other clauses to actually understand this. Thus, it should be treated as the first one. The first one is always topical and it is also a theme. So this clause, how fantastic, acts as the theme. Number 9, reiterated subject. So reiterated subject usually happens in rapid conversational speech such as our daily conversation. It is not uncommon to find the subject of a clause mentioned twice. This often happens clause initially. For example, in this conversation, Diana, she's given blood 36 times. You can analyze this clause with the mood and transitivity role just fine because there are two subjects you just mentioned about it being two subjects and it belonging to the mood. But with theme, it's a little bit different. Consistent with the principle we studied thus far, only the first mention of the subject is analyzed as a theme. So in this clause, only the first subject, Diana, will be counted as a theme. The second subject, C, will not be counted as a theme. Here's the analysis. Diana belongs to topical theme, and then C's given blood 36 times will belong to the rime. So only the first subject will belong to the theme, and the rest, including the second subject, will belong to the rime.
Existential process is a process of projecting that something exists or a participant existent. An existential process is assert that something exists or happens. Typically, they include the word there as a dummy subject, as in. Example is there has been a thief or has there been a fight. Normally, only one participant role relies in the example as a theft and a fight. Existential process take us back to material ones in that both can answer a question such as what happened. In a material process, an actor and a goal will be identified with the participant role replaced by a process. Term in clause complex. A clause complex is a term that systemicists use for the grammatical and semantic unit form when two or more clauses are linked together in certain systematic, meaningful ways. The logico-semantic system is the system that describes the specific type of meaning relationship between linked clauses. The predicate theme allows the speaker or hearer to state something in a categorical way, generally in contrast with something already said. This structure is also appropriately used to emphasize information that is considered essential in a text because it is important for the textual organization of the discourse. The definition of predicate theme is theme and rhyme. The theme is the element which serves as a point of the power of the message. It is the with which the clause is concerned. The rest of the message, the part in which the theme is developed, is called the rhyme.
Patterns of theme, choice, marked and unmarked theme. Theme is to explain the system in the theme network that distinguish between marked and unmarked theme. The term unmarked simply means most typical or usual, while marked means atypical, unusual, all things being equal. An unmarked choice will be made when a marked choice is made. The speaker or writer is signaling that all things are equal, that something in the context requires an atypical meaning to be made. Theme markedness has to do with the relationships between the mood and theme structures of the clause, how the functional roles assigned to constituent in a theme analysis conflate with the functional role assigned to those same constituent in the mood structure. Unmarked theme is when the constituent that is theme also playing one of the following roles: subject, finite, predicator, WH element. In other words, unmarked theme is when theme conflicts with the mood structure constituent that typically occurs in the first position in clauses. The commonest type of marked theme is theme conflating with an adjunct circumstantial, which is not conflated with a WH element. For example, to return to Diana's couplet, in Switzerland they give you a cognac. Adjunct circumstance, which is in Switzerland, they is the subject. A give is a finite and predicator, and you here as a complement, also a cognac as a complement. Theme in these clauses is conflated with the circumstantial adjunct in Switzerland. One way creating a marked theme is to move a circumstantial element to thematic position. Another common strategy is to package constituent as a circumstantial element. For example, Diana as a subject has as a finite, donated as a predicator, blood as a complement, 36 times as adjunct circumstances. Theme, textual meaning, and mode. In SFL, analysis of language patterns and of thematic choice are seen as realizing textual meanings, which in turn are the realization of mode dimensions of the context of situation. Thematic choices realize meanings about the organization of the communicative events, how the text hangs together, and the experiential and the interpersonal distance involved, how the text relates to its context. In its role of organizing the message, the textual metafunction is in sense parasitic upon both the ideational and the interpersonal strands of meanings. Textual choices alone cannot create text. The text would have no content, not would it be possible to interact with it. Meanings cannot be prioritized until those meanings have themselves been chosen. Thus, we need to construct.
That is all from our presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. If you have any question, please feel free to list them out and we will try our best to try and answer them. Once again, thank you for your attention and we are sorry if we did any mistake. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.